All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to look at companies in a totally different light. We usually think about them in terms of, what they sell or how much money they make. But what if we started thinking of them as, well, as our neighbors?
No, really. Just think about that for a second. What makes a good neighbor? They're respectful, right? They help out when you need a hand, they don't make a huge mess, and they generally care about the neighborhood as a whole. Now, imagine a business taking that exact same approach. Well, it turns out there's an official name for this idea: corporate social responsibility, or CSR for short. At its heart, it's a promise from a company to not just do well for itself, but to actually do good for everyone else. It's about being an ethical player that actively tries to make the world around it just a little bit better.
Okay, so how does this actually work in practice? The whole thing is built on this really powerful concept called the triple bottom line. It's a completely new way to measure what success really looks like for a company, and it goes way beyond just dollars and cents. First up, we've got people. This is all about a company's responsibility to its community and, of course, to its own employees. We're talking about fair wages, safe working conditions, and actively getting involved to make society a better place to live. Next, we have planet. This one's pretty straightforward, right? It's a company's commitment to being a good steward of the environment. And it's not just about doing less harm, it's about actively looking for ways to have a positive impact on the health of our planet. And last but not least, there's profit. Now, this is absolutely crucial. CSR doesn't mean a company stops caring about making money. It has to be profitable to survive and to be able to do all this good stuff. The big difference is that profit is no longer the only thing that matters. It's just one part of a much bigger picture. And this slide really nails the difference. The old way of thinking was one-dimensional. It was all about profit, period. The new way, the CSR way, is three-dimensional. It's about finding that sweet spot, that perfect balance between taking care of people, protecting the planet, and running a financially healthy business. Now, it's really easy to hear all this and think, oh, okay, so it's just about companies donating money to charity. But it is so, so much more than that. Let's get into how CSR is actually a core business strategy. That word right there, integrating, is the absolute key. This isn't some side project or an afterthought. Real CSR is woven into the very DNA of a company. It's in how they source their materials, how they treat their employees, how they market their products. It's not about what you do with your money. It's about how you make your money. And this isn't just fluffy, feel-good talk. This is a complex, strategic part of running a modern business. I mean, think about it. Ethical labor practices. That's about treating your team like valued partners, not just cogs in a machine. Environmental management. That's about making sure you're not trashing the community's backyard. It's all managed with serious data and real-world plans. So, we've covered the big idea and the business strategy, but what about the future? How do we make this kind of thinking just normal for the next generation of leaders? This is where it gets really exciting, applying these big ideas to how we educate kids. Obviously, you can't sit a 7-year-old down and lecture them about supply chain ethics. So how do you do it? Well, you break it all down. You simplify these huge principles into relatable stories and examples that a kid can actually understand and get excited about. For kids, it really just boils down to these 3 simple, powerful ideas. You teach them about making good, positive choices. You show them how important it is to help other people, and you instill a sense of responsibility for taking care of nature. These are the building blocks for that whole people, planet, profit idea, just in kid-friendly terms. So, when you pull all these threads together, you don't just have a bunch of nice ideas. What you really have is a blueprint, a clear pathway for building a more responsible, more thoughtful way of doing business from the ground up. See, it's a journey. It starts with getting that core idea of balancing people, planet, and profit. Then you learn how to apply it as a real integrated business strategy. And finally, and this might be the most important part, you nurture that mindset from a young age so that for the next generation, leading responsibly is just second nature. And that's really the big thought I want to leave you with. Just imagine that for a second. If every future CEO, every entrepreneur, every manager grew up with these values already baked in, the idea of helping others, of caring for our planet, how different would our world be? It's a pretty incredible thing to think about. Thanks for tuning in.